Hey y'all, it's your girl Miquela. Your ears are about to receive, and I swear to God, she's like, how is this robot talking to me right now?
Everyone, meet Miquela Sousa. She's a 19-year-old Brazilian-American girl who lives quite an extraordinary life. When she's not snapping Instagram pics, smooching the world's hottest celebrities, dropping hits on Spotify, or pairing with the biggest fashion brands in the world, she's, well, actually, I'm pretty sure that's all she kind of really does. Anyway, there's far more than meets the eye where little Miquela is concerned because although she may seem it, this girl is not human. She's a self-proclaimed robot designed by a company called Bright. In reality, Miquela is not really a robot because she doesn't physically exist. She's certainly not artificial intelligence, which would require her to utilize some form of machine learning, which as far as I'm aware, she doesn't. What Miquela really is a CGI rendered character that is portrayed as having a real life in the real world. She's one of an array of what are now known as virtual influencers, and if you don't know what a virtual influencer is, well, it's kind of just like a normal human influencer, except without a soul and with far more talent. I'm only joking, we know that human influencers don't have souls either. Anyway, Miquela is just one of many virtual influencers who are making their mark on the internet, pop culture, and not to be too dramatic here, but potentially the human condition. Companies are seeing virtual characters as a cheaper alternative to real-life influencers who come inherent with all the problems that come with having a human body and a monkey brain. Virtual influencers are easier to control. They won't say or do anything bad to bring negative publicity. They can be in multiple locations at once. They don't get sick. They won't ask for a pay rise, and they certainly can't file lawsuits. It seems like every company's wet dream, but aside from the people inside marketing boardrooms, I feel like every other human being on Earth gets a little bit of an uncomfy feeling when they consider what these digital characters could be capable of. And if you're not convinced that these characters are a legitimate force in the digital age, read some of Miquela's comments. People actually adore her. They message her wanting her to reply. I would go as far as saying that there are some people that are probably in love with her. But I'm not making this video to trash virtual influencers. That would be unbecoming of me. I'm actually pretty excited to see what benefits come from this new trend, if there are any. That being said, I would like to discuss some of the concerns that I myself, and I'm sure many others have, regarding virtual influencers. Firstly, a super obvious one, unrealistic beauty standards. As if it wasn't already hard enough to feel like a good-looking rooster, you now have to deal with actual perfection personified. And it's no secret that social media has exacerbated the connection between self-image and self-worth to an almost tragic degree. Pretty much everyone who surfs social media is constantly bombarded with unrealistic, photoshopped, airbrushed, filtered photos of people who are already extremely gorgeous to begin with. But now even these people will be leagues below the beauty that a fully artificial character would be capable of. For these virtual influencers, they could literally be designed to fit measurements and proportions that disintegrate the fundamental laws of physics and warp our understanding of the human anatomy. For girls, it will be the perfect waists with the apple-bottom jeans and the boots with the fur, no blemishes, perfect hair lighting and makeup from every angle in every situation. For guys, it will be perfect muscle definition, perfect height, perfect hair volume, sparkly white teeth. Not to mention that these characters will have the freshest outfits known to our species. I can't help but imagine that these virtual characters are only going to perpetuate the harmful and unrealistic beauty standards that we're already faced with every time we open our phones. Especially if their rendering gets a lot better and they start looking less cartoony and more human. Now, a second point that's worth noting is that if these characters get enough influence and popularity, they could begin to affect things in the real world with regard to politics and traditions and norms and values. Now, I know this seems like a bit of a stretch. Who's gonna listen to the fake robot lady? But just remember that when Trump lost, people stormed the Capitol. Governments have used social media to manipulate elections before, and that during the COVID pandemic, we literally bashed each other over something that we used to wipe our butts. My point being that when humans are emotionally charged, particularly in this increasingly polarized and tribal climate that we're all living in, there seems to be no limit to humanity's loss of reason, for lack of a better word. I'm just saying that it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if people start using some of these CGI characters as icons and symbols for their causes. And that people might just start admiring them and looking up to them as beacons of truth and authority. Miquela, for example, is an avid supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. Other virtual influencers are LGBTQ+ allies, Trump supporters, and even vegan activists. Now, I'm definitely not saying that any of these causes, or any other causes for that matter, are particularly bad or wrong for having the support of CGI characters. What I am saying is that when we have anonymous people behind the scenes utilizing a puppet to push an agenda of any sort, we should be a little weary. Do these virtual influencers and their corporate geppettos genuinely care about these causes? Or is it all a ploy purely to improve profitability and public image? With real life influencers, at least you can kind of gauge their integrity to a cause by viewing their actions over a long enough period of time. For virtual influencers though, they're based off a script written in a corporate boardroom. Just how authentic are their beliefs in these causes? And might they be using them for ulterior motives? It's not for me to say I don't know the people at Brud or any of these other companies. I would like to believe that they are genuinely nice people looking to do beneficial things with this new trend, but I think in cases like this, it's always best to have a healthy level of skepticism just to be safe. Which brings me to my third point, which I've already touched on a little bit, which is that we have to remember that these CGI characters are companies. Now, companies want to make money, and I'm not saying that Miquela is just one big money-making scheme, but you can guarantee that there will be companies out there looking to utilize this new trend to make as much money as they possibly can without considering any of the negative impacts that they might have. Now, this isn't exactly a novel idea, but the uncanny valley makes this type of marketing, at least for me, particularly manipulative and deceitful, especially considering that a lot of these characters are targeted at teenagers and young kids. I mean, these characters have personalities and quirks and even birthdays. They say and do things to mimic humanity and appeal to younger audiences. That being said though, there are a lot of celebrities and real life influencers that say and do things that aren't particularly truthful or align with their beliefs, but a lot of us live under the delusion that what they say is authentic. So is virtual influencing that much of a paradigm shift? Are we not already used to puppets saying and doing what they're told so as to gain our trust and get in our pockets? Is the idea of fictional characters in the real world that much different to the gorillas or corporate mascots like Mickey Mouse? Where we're headed is exciting and also a little unnerving. Now, I do wonder how this trend will affect current and future human influencers and content creators. Perhaps in the future they will be replaced in favor of better looking, cheaper, more easily controlled, and better behaved digital characters. I think that this trend is pretty interesting and perhaps could even unearth new ways for us to communicate ideas and culture. But I do think that this needs to be thought out very, very well, just to make sure that we aren't releasing the next wave of teenage depression and loneliness and adding fuel to the fire that already is global misinformation and mistrust. So what do you guys all think of Lil Miquela and her digital life? Are they an exciting addition to a new dimension of marketing, or are they a manipulative and deceitful tactic to get in our pockets? Could they be a mixture of both? I'd love to hear what everyone's thoughts are on virtual influencers and what the future may hold. If you'd like, please leave a comment. All right guys, I'll see you next time.